Hi, I'm Bougie Jones, and this is the Mercedes G-Wagon. I think it is the coolest off-roader out there. Not only is it a status symbol, but it also has so much history behind it, and these boxy looks are iconic. Rappers love them, the Kim Kardashians of the world love them, and Beverly Hills Housewives are really big fans. But what exactly makes the G-Wagon so special? Now you might not notice it because it looks pretty much exactly the same as when it first came out in 1979, but the G-Wagon has been completely overhauled for this year. I'm actually very happy that they didn't change those iconic looks because it just wouldn't be a G-Wagon unless it was big and boxy. So what's new? It's longer and wider while still lighter than before, and that means there's more interior space. It also has a new independent front suspension that has really helped how comfortable and refined it feels on the road. And there's also a new steering setup that's far less agricultural than before. But don't worry, it still has 3 lockable diffs, 4 trailing arms, a 2-speed transfer case, and it can ford 23 inches of water, so it has not lost its hardcore edge. It's also got 9.5 inches of ground clearance, a 30.9 degree approach angle, a 23.5 breakover angle, and a 29.9 degree departure angle. I'm not sure the Kim Kardashians of the world will ever use any of that, but it doesn't make it any less impressive. One of Mercedes' slogans for the G-Class is stronger than time, and I love that slogan because it's so true. This is really a timeless vehicle, and even on the used market, they hold their value really well. One of the things I love most about the G-Wagon is that it has a real authenticity to it that's really hard to find these days, and you can tell Mercedes put a lot of attention into the little details, like just listen to the way it locks. It sounds like a gunshot and it makes me laugh. I just love it so much. Having that old school personality doesn't mean that the G-Wagon is low tech. In fact, it has a ton of tech in it and it's super luxurious inside. I love the dual panel infotainment screen that also doubles as your gauge cluster. And of course, the materials are just gorgeous in here and it's everything you would expect from a proper Mercedes. I also wanted to point out this kind of silly feature because it kind of proves how overbuilt this car is. So it has these automatic bolsters in the seats that are supposed to brace you when you're doing turns and stuff, but you could just be doing a casual right-hander and it's just like, whoa, hold on there, and it gets really annoying real fast, so I just turn it off. And the same thing goes for the automatic stop-start. Like, I love that it has it, but it feels really unrefined, so I just end up turning it off. More importantly, this G550 is powered by a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 with 416 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. There's a really nice growl when you get going, and it adds to the G-Wagon's rugged personality. It's not violently fast, but you'll never ever feel like you need more power. So in terms of driving dynamics, the G-Wagon is one of the last true body-on-frame SUVs, and what that means is that there will be other cars and crossovers out there that feel more refined and modern on the road, but none of them will A, make you feel this cool, and B, be as capable off-road. So all of those faults are really easy to forgive. And what I mean by that is that when you're driving on-road, the G-Wagon can feel kind of soft and disconnected, so it's not as sharp as something you typically expect from Mercedes, but it's those same dynamics that kind of hinder it on-road are what makes it really excel off-road, and that makes these faults easy to forgive. One of the things I love the most about the G-Wagon is that it is just so capable and so overbuilt, and yet that's kind of annoying to me because I know that nobody who buys a G-Wagon will ever use it for what it was built for. While Jeep people are out there doing Jeepy things, they're out hitting the trails and doing some really hardcore off-roading, and they're doing a lot more than just going to Chanel and Louis Vuitton for a shopping spree. The other funny thing I should mention is that the G-Wagon has the aerodynamics of a barn and it gets like 14 mpg. It's also too tall to fit in my garage, but none of that matters because I feel so cool driving it and I just love this G-Wagon.
I'm working class Sammy, and if you're like me, you don't have $125,000 to spend on some boxy, ugly Mercedes-Benz. But you can probably make do with this, the brand new Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, which costs about $45,000 as it sits here. Now this is just as cool and just as capable as that Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. In fact, I think it's more capable off-road, mainly because they spend all of their time testing and developing this car all over the world, and not just in some shackle, whatever that is. Listen to this. It has over 1 inch more ground clearance at 10.8 inches and an approach angle of 43.9 degrees, which is a whole lot more than the G-Wagon. It also has a better departure angle than the Mercedes too, at 37 degrees, and the breakover angle is close at 22.6. Additionally, this thing can ford up to 30 inches of water. Sure, it doesn't have 3 locking diffs like that G-Wagon, but who really needs all of that? It's a bit of a thing to brag to your friends about. In fact, the whole G-Wagon is a big brag fest, isn't it? This vehicle has 2 locking diffs, and they're electronic lockers, and they work while the car is in motion, which is a huge help. But better than locking diffs is the electronic sway bar disconnect, which will help you get better wheel articulation, and that improves off-roading a huge deal. It's not a do-everything G mode like what the G-Class has, but there's something to be said about doing things manually. And speaking of which, you can get a Wrangler with a manual transmission. Save the manuals, am I right? And you'll save a few bucks in the process. What's better is, I think you'd be far more comfortable off-roading and beating on this Wrangler than you would be some $100,000 luxury car. And that's what this thing is all about. It's off-roading for the people, and that's something we can all get behind. Under the hood of this SUV is an engine that's so different than what you find in the Mercedes-Benz truck. You'll find the popular Pentastar 3.6-liter V6 engine that makes 285 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Yeah, you will feel that it's slower than what's found in the Mercedes, but the SUV gets up to speed with ease and can keep up with traffic. And when you're on the trails, you don't really need that much power anyways. It's all about going slow and being measured. What's more is that, unlike that G-Class, this thing is actually pretty fuel efficient, thanks to an 8-speed automatic transmission and engine shut-off features. It can get 20 miles per gallon combined, which isn't bad at all. Once you get on the road, you get a slightly disconnected feel, but that's part of the Jeep charm. And any body-on-frame SUV will feel kind of floaty anyways. But don't take that note for some sort of harsh criticism. This thing is far more engaging and responsive to drive than past Wranglers, and I actually think it feels more connected than the way that G-Class feels. The G-Class at times can feel like you're driving a bank vault. I mean, a literal 5,000-pound vehicle. It's insane, and that comes with pros and cons. Yes, it feels really safe and secure, but the stopping distances and the feeling of acceleration are really different. All right, but now we have to come back down to earth when it comes to this Jeep. When you jump inside and look around at all the materials and the layout, well, it's night and day. This thing just looks and feels like a more affordable product. Well, because it is. Sure, there's no fancy materials, there's no carbon fiber accents or, Alcantara on the roof. But this thing is rugged in its own way. Just because this doesn't have all the fancy materials that a G-Class has doesn't mean it's some sort of Spartan old-school truck. In fact, this has some really nice features that I really appreciated. For example, there's the Uconnect infotainment system that now includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's also a ton of USB ports, including USB-C support. And if you really wanted to, you could get this truck with safety features like adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning, blind spot monitoring, and even parking assistance features. One more thing when it comes to the interior of this Wrangler, there are all of these really cute Easter eggs and reminders of the Jeep brand history. Remember, this thing started as a CJ back in 1945, which means that it is stronger than time, not some G-Wagon that was introduced in 1979. But I'm leaving the best qualities of this Jeep for last. You see, the moment you get one of these Jeeps, you join a community. Whether it's a wave or a nod at other Jeep riders on the road, you just feel like you're part of something special. And there's so much customizability and options available for your Jeep Wrangler. The community is there, the aftermarket support is there, and hey, if you want to, you can even drive this thing without the doors or windshield or even the roof. And that's something that you just can't do with a G-Wagon. Let's be real, no one's actually cross-shopping these two vehicles, but we wanted to show you that they're actually cut from the same cloth, or should I say chiseled from the same rock.
What we wanted to do was show you that if you wanted to buy a boxy off-roader, you don't have a lot of options, but luckily for us, there's one at each side of the price spectrum.